Hey everybody, Jill here. Welcome back to Whispering Willow Farm. I am spending the next couple hours, by couple I mean I got about an hour, out in the cottage garden. The roses are starting to bloom, the blackberries are starting to shoot up, the lilies are absolutely stunning, and we can't forget that I bought all of these beautiful plants gosh, a couple weeks ago, and they are desperately ready to go into the ground. This is lavender. It smells so good. I've got hollyhocks, black-eyed Susan. I've got 2 limelight hydrangeas. We have all these ferns that we're going to be moving out under the pavilion. And so I bought all these plants, and I had this grand plan, right? I had this grand plan to tackle the cottage garden. I had sketches upon sketches written out in notebooks. I had ideas and designs. The reality of it is that I have seen none of those things come to pass. And so I was feeling, gosh, just a bit defeated by that. And I decided, you know what, I'm gonna come out here, I'm gonna plant this small little project. I had like a really large vision for this, and I bought some of the plants to kind of play around with it. So we're gonna plant that today, and I'm just gonna talk to you guys about some of the things I'm feeling. And I don't really think it's just me. In fact, I know I'm not the only person who has these thoughts and feels these things. And so we're just gonna use this as an opportunity to plant together and really just hang out in authentic conversation. So I hope you guys are ready for it. Now, I know I chose literally probably the worst time of day to come out here and shoot a video, but this was the only time slot I had, so I figured a bright video is better than no video, right? So I bought these perennial succulents, and I got these a while ago. We've got sedum, it's a coral reef. I have a stone crop, and yeah, so I've got the lemon balm stone crop, which is this really, really fun little succulent that puts off this little like spreading, hi wasp, puts out this like spreading flower, which I thought was like really, really fun. And it's actually grown for foliage, so I thought depending on how big that got, that might be fun to kind of play around throwing it in a bouquet. That was the thing too, is I really just didn't want to buy succulents that were going to die and I was going to have to buy them every single year. And so I talked to the lady at my local nursery. She's like, well, hey, I think these will be really good options for you. And so I'm giving them a go, seeing what's going to happen. So I don't know if you guys remember, I did a video a while ago on, well, I think it was when I went plant shopping. Oh, and I bought these really cool stone planters. These things are like 100 pounds, but I got them for like 35 bucks at a thrift store. So I bought 2 of them. They're sitting on the deck going into the glass greenhouse in the cottage garden. And so I'm wanting to fill these up with different succulents, mosses, some covering herbs, and so I just think these would be these fun little planters that would just really invite you into the cottage garden. So for the whole garden, I really have like just a secret garden feel and vibe. I'm wanting different like textures. I'm wanting it to be literally like just, you can't even see the rows, like the fence line, and you're really just left wondering like, I wonder when I walk through that arbor what I'm gonna get. And I do know that this is gonna take me years to achieve this secret garden type of aesthetic that I want in here. But this was something practical and affordable I could do, so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna take baby steps. We're gonna start. I'm gonna be filling this up with just a potting mix. I just get it at the local nursery, and it does really well for pots and containers. This is actually what I use for all of my house plants inside, and I just really like it. So I've got my soil in here. Unfortunately, it has about, gosh, I don't even know. It is crawling with an entire ant family. That is something that we struggle with here so bad. I know we've talked to you guys about that. Many of y'all suggested cornstarch, which we bought a big bag of that. And then someone recently told me diatomaceous earth works really well. So I think I'm going to try to buy some of that bulk and see what we can't do. But unfortunately, I don't even want to plant in here, but I'm going to. And I'm just going to be mindful of the little ants, hoping that they don't bite me. So I don't really know how I'm going to plant this. The good thing is, though, they're in their own little container, so I can kind of set it around and then get an idea of how I want to move it. That is one reason why I really like to transplant things out that you could technically direct seed. Granted, if it's like an arch trellis I'm going to have a bean on, or something like that, a cucumber, I know what that's gonna look like. That's not a problem. But with like zinnias or even maybe like sunflowers, things that you would typically direct seed, I prefer to start those because I can lay it all out in my garden bed and then move it around as I please. I don't have to plant it. Once it's planted, there's no going back, right? And so for me, that is one of the benefits in my opinion. Now granted, it is all based off of your needs and you know what you're trying to accomplish. It is a bit more time consuming to do that. But for me, I like to physically be able to place these things. That way I can say, okay, I like where that looks. You know, and here I can get a good idea if I want to add rock, because succulents really like rock, and sand. Very tropical environments are what they are used to. I can leave some spaces to go back in and add rock, to add some different like covering moss and things like that. But I actually think this worked out pretty well. So I am gonna plant them. So while I'm out here today in the cottage garden, you guys can probably see behind me just a mess, really. We've got grass that's overgrown. We've got beds that I didn't lay down fabric in enough time before the weeds came out of dormancy. I can look behind me and see a lot of failures, if I'm being honest. I can see a lot of dreams and plans I had for this space that didn't happen. And if I'm being real honest, I can come out here and feel super discouraged by not feeling adequate enough. Like, do I really, like, can I do this? And typically, these aren't conversations I have with you guys. One, I feel like we paint a picture of our life very authentically. I never want to get on here and show you guys how perfect our farm is, because it is certainly far from that. But I'm usually always on here when I am in a good mindset, right? When I feel happy and encouraged and I'm in a place to inspire and uplift you guys. That's something that I feel super called to do, is just to use this platform as a way of encouragement. But this week, I'm not feeling encouraged. And if I'm being completely honest, I had actually scheduled for a video not to go out today. And Nathan was like, why aren't you going to do a video? And my response was, I'm just not in the right headspace. Like, I feel super discouraged. I feel super overwhelmed. I feel like I'm struggling with not feeling adequate enough. And when I put my camera back up inside and was just like, we're not doing this today. Gosh, I just felt major conviction, because it's like, is this what it's like to be a gardener? You have to have this perfect garden at all times, and it has to be manicured and weed eated, and there has to be no weeds in your bed, and your plants have to be perfect all the time, and you can't get overwhelmed, and you can't let anyone see you struggle, right? And we live in a culture that's what people expect. They expect entertainment, they expect convenience, they expect what they see within little squares. And a lot of times that's not really the reality. And so I just want to let you guys see some real raw life. I can't do it all. And guess what? You probably can't either. I can't cultivate every bed all the time. I'm going to have projects that get put above other projects and take priority, and that means something else is going to lack. And that does not mean I'm a failure. That does not mean that I am not adequate enough, that I'm not worthy enough, that my dreams aren't worth pursuing. That means I'm human. That means I'm a gardener. I can't even tell you guys how many farmers and gardeners and influencers and aspiring farmers and gardeners and homesteaders that I get to talk to on a daily basis. It's one of the reasons I love doing what I do. I get to meet so many new people, hear so many people's stories, and the one thing that they always say is, I really want to do this thing, but I just don't think I can. And when I ask them, well, what's stopping you? It's not the fear that they can't do it. It's the fear of expectations that other people have put on this. And that's something that I want to speak to today. You don't have to, this is what it looks like to garden, you guys. It looks like your farm not being perfect all the time. It looks like you being behind on planting. It looks like beds not getting cultivated. It looks like having high hopes for a project that you realize you've got to push on into another season. And that's okay. And I wish more than anything, we would, I don't want to say put emphasis, because I don't like to get on here and do videos that aren't encouraging, right? And I think if someone hopped on social media and they spent all their time talking about all the crappy things in their life, nobody wants that. I don't want to watch that. I know you guys don't want to watch that. But I think there is this fine line of being a Debbie Downer and just being authentic with what you're sharing. If I got on here and only showed you the highlights or only showed you parts of my garden that were thriving, that's not authentic. And I want to live a life as organically and authentically as I can. I want to encourage someone, if you're sitting on your couch right now and you want to garden, but you're like, I don't know what this looks like. If that's my expectation, I'm never going to get there. Let's just cast that down right now. The only expectation you have is the expectation you put on yourself. Now, you could be like me and put high expectations on yourself and get knocked on your butt a few times. I think the cottage garden was an unrealistic expectation I put on myself. I knew with the deadline for the book and just other various projects we had going on that this shouldn't have been a priority, and I try to make it a priority. And sometimes we have to have those conversations of okay, that wasn't realistic. Let me regroup and reconfigure and figure out what I can do. And so I know that right now I can't plan out this entire cottage garden. That is the realization I've come to. And while I am slightly discouraged by that, I had to ask myself, well, Jill, what can you do? And right now, I can plant some succulents in a planter behind me. And that's all I'm gonna do today. It doesn't look like coming out here and weeding beds. It doesn't look like doing anything else other than planting these few plants. But you know what? That's okay. And so I'm gonna ask you the same question I had to ask myself. What is that one thing you can do today? Do that with excellence. Do that with an attitude of gratefulness that it is something you could do that you didn't get to do yesterday. I'm not telling you guys anything that I'm not speaking to myself as well. And so today I had to ask myself, Jill, what can you do today that you didn't get to do yesterday? And today I get to plant succulents. And you know what? I didn't get to do that yesterday. I was inside all day working on business stuff for the farm, which is crucial and essential to the growth of our business. But I really was needing time outside. I was needing to feel connected. I was needing to know that what I'm doing I'm doing well, and it might take me a while, but I'm putting these systems in place. I'm doing what I can do, and I just know that there are so many people who need to hear that. You don't have to grow the biggest garden. You don't have to grow the most tomatoes or have the most lavish bouquet of flowers. You just have to do the next best thing. You just have to take that one step, and it may be a small step. It may even seem like it's insignificant. But I can promise you it is not. Every seed you put in the ground has meaning and is worth, and it is growing you as a gardener as you are learning. I know for me, that is something that I'm really wanting to prioritize, is doing a much better job at showing, I don't want to say the ugly sides. I don't feel like there are any ugly sides of the farm. The sides of our farm that aren't yet polished, I just like to look at those as like growth opportunities. But I think it is easy to show you guys the beds that we do have planted or the flowers that are blooming in the cottage garden. I started this entire video out with like hitting the highlights of the cottage garden. But I've got weeds taller than the actual flowers blooming. It's a hot mess. And instead of being shameful of that, I'm sitting here and I'm feeling okay. And I think I'm feeling okay, which is not how I felt yesterday. I will tell you, I felt very discouraged yesterday. But I feel okay because I know that this is real life. I know that I am not the only gardener sitting here today feeling overwhelmed by what work needs to be done in the garden, what work needs to be done on my farm, what work needs to take place in my home. I know this is a very common feeling for many of us. And I just want to let you know that I'm with you. And I think the only way that we get through this, for me, it comes in waves. It comes in seasons where I feel super motivated and I can do all the things. And then there's seasons where I'm juggling a lot of things and I feel inadequate, like I was talking about. I think the only way we get through seasons like that is by having real honest conversations. And that may look like to a close friend, to your spouse. That may look like hopping on your social platforms and being like, hey, anybody else on the struggle bus today? Because I sure am. I don't think that that's something that we should try to ignore. I think that we should use that as an invitation to invite other people in, to encourage you, but also for you to encourage them. A lot of times when I'm feeling discouraged, I don't need someone to lift me up. I need an opportunity to lift someone else up. And when I have that opportunity, then it fills me up because that's how I thrive. And so I just want you to know that if your garden's a mess, I hear you. If you're behind on planting, I am with you. And if you are just struggling with thinking, Lord have mercy, how do I do it all? Know that that feeling is going to pass. I know without a shadow of a doubt that I am exactly where God called me to be. And He would not have called me here if I wasn't equipped to handle it. And so I know it's a season, but I know that this is a season that I'm not the only one walking through. And so I just wanted to do this video today, extend an invitation to encourage you all that you are going to get through this. Your gardens will get planted, weeds will get cultivated, and you will have a beautiful bounty in just a few months. And I know I can't wait for that day, and I am praying for you that you will have that day come very soon as well. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I'll talk to you soon.